because then everybody's dope again if DJ Moore gets traded.
Or you just have Dalton Kincaid.
I have a lot of Dalton Kincaid, Jack.
Figures.
You're not surprised.
Trav touches a hot stove every morning.
Yeah. You know what I have for breakfast, guys? I have bacon every morning, and I cook it naked.
Sorry about that.
Always maple bacon, too. Always maple flavored bacon. Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with The Underground, the show that goes to the depths of the Dynasty landscape. The Underground is back, baby, and it's a big show at that. The draft is over. We've got these landing spots. The UN score wide receiver prospect model is out, and we've been working tirelessly to help you prepare for those drafts, people. So excited to do so. We are, of course, posted up on the Undroppables YouTube channel. Find the socials in the episode description. And the usual suspects are with me tonight. Of course, Jaxing on, also Jaxing off, is one Jax Falcone. What's going on, brother? How are you tonight? I know you were fired up for the score in the chat, and it is here. We did it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm in the rookie drafts. I mean, the UN score model dropping. It's like, I don't know, man. I get sensory overload. I can't do anything else other than just like pay attention to my phone and look at trades. When am I up? What should I do? Like, I'm completely addicted to my phone. I'm on there 24/7, and it's a sickness, and I'll admit it. So, but it's so much fun.
Also afflicted, I will admit. And the first step,
So
Jax, is admittance. The first step is admittance. And so we have done that.
I'm going to stay on step one.
Yeah, staying on step one. Yeah. Oh, Joe Quavius Kuvatakis in the corner office with the view. Pinkies up, folks. Thank you for all of your hard work, my man. How you doing today?
Whew. I've never been more ready to do a pod. In some ways, I feel like this is maybe the biggest pod we've ever done because we launched this show the day after the season ended. And, we talked about a few other things, but what we've been primarily focused on for our Dynasty focused listeners is this rookie class, and rightfully so. And so this was kind of like our first Super Bowl. And I kind of think we fucking nailed it on many of our pre-draft rankings. We killed it. So I'm pumped. It's so funny because we were talking about what the show is going to be on Saturday while the draft is still unfolded. And I was like, guys, I can't do a show tonight. I need to write all these UN profiles. There's a bunch of scrubs I didn't know about that got drafted. I got to, tell their story. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, my point is this. The idea for the show on Saturday versus what it is today is like completely different because it's like that feels like a lifetime ago when the draft ended. We have, to Jax's point, startups began. Rookie drafts began. Yeah, we're going in these rookie drafts. We're adjusting our rankings. We pumped out the UN model, and it is freaking awesome. And so, I don't know, just the end of the actual NFL draft feels like a lifetime ago. I've never been more ready to talk about football, though. Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah, man, it has been quite the day. I had the day off today, was working in the back channels with all of the boys and just itching to chat with you guys. We podcast after the kids are in bed. So it was a bit of an agonizing wait today, boys, but we are here and we did it. And we are going to talk all about this rookie class. We will talk at the end a little bit and probably throughout when we get to some of these guys about the prospect model and all of the work that went into it. But let's just get right into it, guys. And we're going to be kind of re-upping some of the conversations we had pre-draft with maybe some new names in those pockets and things. And I think it's going to be really interesting conversation. We're already in some rookie drafts, one of which we're all in together. And there's been some fun stuff happening there. So let's start at the top, guys. Ashton Jeanty was the consensus 101 previously. We had him locked in as the 101. I think he is still that after his selection to the Raiders. I would say you are both not swayed that. And I've seen your guys' rankings, and I know you're both not swayed off of that. So, Joe, you're the Raiders guy here. Do you want to give just a little quick take on Ashton Jeanty's outlook with the Raiders before we talk a little bit about what happens behind them?
Well, I mean, my general take is this. The Raiders aren't good enough to be taking a running back in the top 10, but they did it anyways. And you know what? It's better to be fun and dumb than, boring and dumb. So
Yeah.
I can't complain about it. He's going to kill it. He's going to kill it. Pete Carroll. I don't even think this is an interesting conversation. I think we
No.
should just keep going on to the next tier and the next running backs because
Yeah.
it gets really interesting. Like, I think, Jack's nailed the top 6 running backs drafted. 6
True.
of my first 7 were the 6 running backs drafted. And I think there's been a little bit of change. I think it went from a big 5 to a big 6
Mhm.
It
on
is.
draft day or
Yeah.
on draft days. And I kind of want to talk about that and what order we got those guys in.
Yeah. By the way, I will take my genty minute to talk
Okay,
about my
sure.
Patriots
Yeah.
because I've been consuming this Will Campbell content and I've got the Kleenex out. I'm crying. Like this dude completely won me over. If he has to be the worst football player ever for me to turn on him. Like he will have to be legendarily bad. I am so all in on Will Campbell. Like this is this is just out of control how cool this dude is. So and then we get Travion. I'm Patriots fan. Let's go. Beat LA. Let's go. So that's my genty minute. But you're right. We did nail the top 6. Look, we said there were a top 5 running backs and we weren't sure what was going to happen in day 1 and day 2 of the draft. And everybody was like, there's going to be so many running backs. I'm like, dude, traditionally we may get 6 to 9. We got 6. And the 6th that got drafted was our
In the
top
first 2
5
rounds. In the first
was,
2 rounds. Yeah.
yep, was our top 5 plus RJ Harvey. That's it.
Mhm.
Those are the day 1 and day 2 backs. We called that. It's a little bit of a victory lap. I mean, at the end of the day, had we been
No,
drafting
we're
pre-draft,
victory lapping that.
we would have been drafting RJ Harvey as RB6 while everybody else was taking Ollie Gordons and all the rest of it. Now, we didn't start and end with RJ Harvey. It wasn't like an easy problem to solve, but we worked through it and we did a lot of work. We weren't just like, going off the, off vibes. We really tried to figure it out. And, we thought for a minute that it may have been that he was a little smaller school, smaller back, and, a little old. And those were some of the red flags, but everything else was green lights go and wheels up. So RJ Harvey's there. To your point now, we'll talk about the running backs, Mr. Kuvatakis, Mr. Joquave, but maybe we should even start a little bit earlier than that because the running backs will filter into this conversation. I think there's 4 or 5, probably 5 players that are vying for the 102. 4, I should say. And, for me, that's Cam Ward, Omarion Hampton, who right now Omarion seems to be the locked in sort of de facto 102. And then the 2 wide receivers, Tet McMillan and Travis Hunter. I have not seen too much else go at the 102, but I've seen a lot of iterations of those 4 players go. If it's some sort of super tight end premium, you could see something a little wacky with a Loveland or Warren or something like that. But have you guys kind of seen the same type of thing? And how do you sort of digest that, Joe? Because I've got some takes. I'm just
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of giving it to you
I
first.
I know. I appreciate that. I
You're
know
welcome.
you do.
Yep.
We talked about the UN score off the top. And if you were just to compare, Hunter and Tet to historic players that go at the 102 slot, they do not measure up to that caliber.
Bingo.
We've said it from January. This is a running back heavy class. The strength of this class is at the running back position. And so that's probably where should you be focusing your attention early and often. So I like both those guys. And listen, if you're a rebuilding team that has no wide receivers and no running backs, sure, go ahead and take the receivers because it's better to build around them than waste the best years of a running back's career in a rebuild.
Bingo.
But
But
if we're talking about what the best value is and what the best bets are, no, you gotta go either quarterback in a super flex league. And even there, I'm not seeing Cam go at 102 as often as
not
I
very
thought I
often.
would.
Nope, me neither.
Not very often. I think it's Omarion, and I think probably number 3 is a running back too. But anyways, you go ahead.
No, I think you nailed it. And I think the crowd, the sort of the ADP is pushing Cam Ward down to like 105, 106, sometimes further. And so for me, if I'm sitting there, like that is too good a value to pass up.
Mhm.
Cam Ward is too good a value. I don't know how good a football player is. I mean, we talk about this all the time. It's range of outcomes. You're just betting on range of outcomes. And if I can go back to something else you said something very, very smart, which is, look, if you're a rebuilder, sure, take the wide receiver. I would take that one step further. If you're a rebuilder, trade the pick. You saw
Yes.
me it's not even a rebuild, but in this particular league that I'm in with you, Joe, I had the 103 and the 108 heading into the draft, and I thought, we'll see. I've got a pretty good squad. My team's not bad, but I also have 3 first round picks in 2026. I take the 103, I trade it to the 203 or something, to the 204, 203,
Mhm.
whatever it was. I trade from the 103 to the 203 or 204, and I pick up a 26 first. I get to the 108, I trade that to the 208 and pick up another 26 first.
Mhm.
That to me is how you'd be playing this class in an arbitrage way, because here's how and I think you'll agree, and Trav, I think you're going to disagree to some effect on this, which I can't wait to hear, and maybe you can come from this for a second, but I think there's a tier of wide receivers, including Tet and Travis Hunter, that's not exactly, it's pretty flat, all the way out to maybe even Jaden Higgins. I'm not saying Jaden Higgins is
Hmm.
equal. I'm not saying he's equal to Tet. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, but he's close. It's not the difference between, this Malik Neighbors to the early second round picks in that draft. It's not that. It's not Keon Coleman to Malik Neighbors. It's not that.
No.
It's
Mhm.
something much. So you see what I'm saying when you
I
say it
think
that
we
way?
kinda I think we kinda knew that though coming in, right? I think these guys all kinda like, I think Tet kinda condensed backwards towards these guys previously, and so we kinda knew that, and I think these landing spots kinda cemented that. Where I put Tet ahead is because I still think he is that number 1 target soaker who can do it
He's
all
ahead
on the
for me
field,
too.
right?
But
So,
is
I
he a
think he is
26 first plus ahead? In
no.
other words,
No, he's not.
would you rather have a 26 first in Jaden Higgins or Tet?
26 first in Jaden Higgins,
Of
but
course.
I don't know if you're necessarily getting that. I find
Yes,
that
I
some of
just
the
got it
I just saw
yeah, in
Jax
some
get it
situations.
against a
twice.
bunch of ballers. This league is not for the faint of heart. This is a bunch of ballers.
Hmm,
We
It's a
both
big league.
sort of last year was the startup, and we both sort of went the productive struggle route with our roster constructions. So we both had relatively early picks. It's pretty interesting because I had the 102 and I just fired on Amarian because I was like, I have the 201 and the 202. And I was looking at that and this
Mm-mm.
draft class, and I was like, if I hit these 3 picks, I'm a playoff team.
Yes.
I'm actually a pretty dope team. So I'm going for it. And I just went Omarion. If I had the 103, though, I would have done exactly what Jax did because I think there is a little mini tier break. I've always had Janty in one tier, Omari in his own tier, and then the other 3 guys, which is now 4 guys together.
yeah.
And
So what
especially
he
with
did,
Omarian's landing spot too.
yep,
Yeah, I
yep.
think yeah, if you can get that, you definitely take that, and I think for me, it's kinda interesting because I still like Cam Ward in that mix too, like, in a team that everything that I've seen from Cam Ward makes me like him more now that he's been drafted, like, all of the stuff that we've seen makes me wanna take some shots a little bit more and see what he can do in those teams, but yeah, if you can trade up, you definitely should take that shot because but how far
You mean
back are you
trade down?
going, guys?
Trade down.
Trade
I
down,
went
sorry.
the twice I went was about exactly around from the 103 to the 203 or 4, I don't remember, and from the 108 to the 208. That's where I traded exactly around, and I got
Right.
a 26 first for that move. And that's the right value too. It's not like someone's going to be like, "Well,
Yeah,
it's too." It's the right look. And if I was holding the chip that was Malik Neighbors, I would have told you to go F yourself. Okay?
Mhm.
Because I know I have Malik Neighbors.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
taking the Keon Coleman, Ricky Pearsall pick plus a first for Malik Neighbors. Go F. So people, I think, are putting
right,
Travis Hunter and Tet McMillan in that tier, and I don't think they're there. The
Agreed.
UN score agrees with us.
yeah,
I just don't think they're there from my own personal position, but also the data backs that up. And so I think that they're not worthy of those picks. I think they're more worthy of later picks. And with later picks, you're getting players who are worthy of those picks. I think it's a flat tier to some
yeah,
degree. And if you're gonna pick, what do you have there? You have Omarion Hampton, you have Quinshawn Judkins, you have Travion Henderson, you have legit stud running backs who kind of hit pretty good. I mean, people are waiting for like, oh, they just want them to. They want all the players on Kansas City to die, all the running backs to die, and for someone to go there. It's like, oh, that's a good landing spot. It's like, no, dude, this is a good landing spot. Travion landing with Vrabel and Drake May, a young quarterback, and they just invested in the
We'll
offensive
talk
line
about
at pick
that.
4. It's a good landing spot. It just is. Is it great? Of course not. I'm not stupid. I understand the difference between good and great, but you can't get perfect every time. Now, Omarians is pretty good, but he still has Najee to contend with in year 1. I'm not saying that he's not better than Najee, but Najee's going to get 30, 40, 50% of the stuff. He's going to be involved. I guess my long-winded way of saying this is if you were hoping for running backs, they're there. You got to take them.
Yeah,
What are your
but in
thoughts?
your situation, if I'm at the 103, you moved back to the 203. So if I'm at the 103 and I want to get a running back, but I want to move back to catch another bullet, you move to
You
the
can't.
203, so you're not getting those
You
running
can't.
backs, right? So you can't
Right.
move back off of Tet to get one of
No.
those running backs,
No.
basically.
This is for wide receiver. And that's
Bingo.
actually exactly the point you just made. And that's kind of what we touched on last week, right? Where we said, there are guys and the model, if you get the model, you'll see that are in the same neighborhood, but draft capital dictates that they are going to go at the beginning of the second round. So why would you fire your 102, 103, 104 on Tet or Hunter
Yeah.
when you can get a Higgins, when you can get a Trey Harris, when you can get these other guys that analytically are pretty darn close for a round cheaper and pick up a first on the way. So
Luther
what you
Burden,
did
right.
was, Burden, yes.
And here's to your point, right? So the running backs, if you're going to play for running back, in the other 2 leagues I'm in so far, I've done 3. I took Travion at the 106 and Travion at the 107. So yeah, I'm not saying you just trade back automatically. I'm saying that, and that's a great point that you bring up because you're like, right, what if I want a running back? It's like, yes, you have to
Usually I
see,
do,
hey,
right? Usually I just don't want the wide receiver at that point.
yeah,
Mhm.
no, but I think it's a good point. Like, because people might be listening going, well, so I should just trade back then? No, you shouldn't just automatically do what I'm saying to do in this one case. I'm saying that there are these maneuvers that you can make that you have to be willing to pull the levers on. It's like fork, spoon, knife, man. If someone brings you a bowl of soup, I suggest you grab the spoon. Okay.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, when you're a rebuilding team and you're like, should I take Tet? Don't do that at the 103. That's where you trade back, get more value, get a future first, and get an early second, and then take a wide receiver there. A Luther Burden. Luther Burden's been consistently falling.
Yeah.
I just got in whatever league, I don't remember now. I get confused with the leagues. I just got in the underground. I got Buka and Trey
Yeah, him
Harris
at
at the
202.
2-2 and 2-4. Like
2-6.
those are what even better.
Even
Point of
better.
the
Yeah.
Point of the
exactly.
matter is that early part of the second round is where these guys are falling because you're getting all the running backs, you're getting the 2 tight ends, you're getting the other wide receivers, and you're getting like Ibuka, Burden, Harris, Golden. I mean, I don't like Golden, but he's there.
I also think I see a different ceiling for Tet than you guys, maybe.
Well, let's have that conversation in a second, but I do
Okay.
want to touch on the point that you're making, Trav, which is this. Like I was saying, it's Gianti, tier break, Hampton, tier break. Then from 103, if you want a running back, you can move all the way back to 108 and
106,
pretty
107, 108.
much.
Yeah.
No, I
Get
think
Judkins.
you can
Well,
ensure.
if you put RJ Harvey in there, yes.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
putting RJ Harvey.
Okay,
there.
cool.
You can move back to 108 because
Yes.
you know that Tet and Hunter are going. You can probably bet that Cam Ward's going to go too. And if you're in a tight end premium league, you might get one of the tight ends as well. So like you can safely move back to 108 or 109, still get your running back.
Yep.
And extract more value in the form of a future pick or an additional second round pick or what have you. Now you've filled that slot in the same tier at running back. We already talked about the wide receiver thing. You can go all the way back to 203, 204 and do the same thing and probably get more value back. So those are
I'll do one more for you. To that
I don't
point,
think you're
let's say-
getting a first if you're moving back to the 8.
I got
though. If
the
you're moving
I don't
winning
think so
back to
either.
the
I think
eight-
I got
picking up an
I'll
extra
get you a
second.
first. I'll get you a first right
Do I
now.
want to do that though at that
No,
point?
I'm going to get you a
I want to hear
first.
it. Tell me how to get
I'm
the first.
getting you a
'Cause
damn
I'm pissed
first.
off at how many firsts
Get
I
me
saw
a
you get
first,
today.
Jax.
It
Jeez.
Hold
was
on.
pissing
You're at
me
the
off. Jack's
103.
got so many firsts today. It drove me nuts.
I get first. Listen, at the 103 and you're moving back to the 108 or 109, you just say, hey, listen, you want the 103? I want the 108, 109. You want to move up? You swap next year their first for your second. And that's the
Yes.
play. And they go,
Yeah.
that's kind of fair, because it is kind of fucking fair, actually. And
Mhm.
that is good value. You poach the first. You did have to give up your second next year, but now still those first are liquid gold. You have the
So much
liquid
more
gold.
Yeah.
valuable.
And
Yeah.
that's why you do it. So, and if you have to, you throw in a future second. If it's really, I mean, if whatever the case, you see what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
if it's your own first, your 103, and it's their own 109, guess what they think? They think they're better than you. They think
Mhm.
they're better than you. So they think their pick is going to be late because they're going to be moving up to get this premium player. You can even sell that to them. Look,
Yep.
obviously your picks are better than mine, so mine will be a early second. Yours will be a late first. It's not that big a difference. They're going to
Mhm.
go, you're right. I am pretty good at this. And then you fucking, it's true. Right? And they go,
It's
you're
Yep,
so
right.
true.
I
spot
am
on.
fucking.
It's so
And then
true.
you
Yeah.
make the deal and you get the
I'm on both
win.
sides of that, by the way.
Me too. Me too. Okay, you
Ah,
guys
damn it,
convinced
dude.
me that it's still a good move to make the arbitrage play. I've been kind of coming back a little bit because I love the situation for Tet and Carolina. Like they were a top 10 team in most of the receiving categories you want for wide receivers last year, and that was with receivers that sucked. And so I think like Tet succeeding with Bryce Young could be the thing that saves Canales' job almost and gives him more term. That offense needs to hum, and I think
I
Tet
think
is going
Tet's
to
the
be the
wide
guy that does it.
receiver 1 or 2 for sure. Like I can't
I
just,
think he's
this
going to
is
be the
not a
one
disagreement. Yeah.
very quickly, right? And I just think like they haven't had receivers that were worth all of that volume that they've been giving to wide receivers, and I think Tet
I'm saying in
is
the
going to
class. Like
command that volume.
I
Oh
don't
yeah, yeah,
disagree.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
disagree. It's just that what's the difference in terms of range of outcomes for the players? And of course, I think the range of outcomes for Ted McMillan are better than they are for Trey Harris and
Hmm.
Jaden Higgins. But what I guess I'm saying too is that you might be able to get Ibuka or Burden as well, because Burden has been, let's talk about Burden right now, because Joe, this is your guy. The
Hmm.
landing spot's a little bit fishy, and I think this is what's pushing him down boards right now. We'll get to the tight ends as well, because I know you guys are going to have something to say about that, especially Trav with Loveland. But and Loveland follows the same thing because they're landing the same damn offense. Now this
Hmm.
helps,
Caleb.
the Bears offense, Caleb, right? But in terms of how this target share spreads around, it's scary, right?
It's hard to
Wars are going to
figure
be
out.
fought this summer over this Bears distribution share.
Yes.
All right. I want to, we can talk about Burden. We can talk about, Loveland.
Yep.
I do just want to put a bow on the conversation we just
Mm.
had with this, though. Seller beware. There is a gigantic
Mm-hmm.
teardrop after the 206,
Yes.
right? 206, in my opinion, is where the tier breaks. And we've got these guys that are all worthy of first round picks falling midway through the second round, which is a great gift. But then after that, oh man, the 206 to like the 312, it's kind of all a tier of sameness as well, right? So think
Yes.
of the first round. Think of the first round as 18 picks this year, right?
Yep.
That's where the tier break is. And I'm talking super flex, tight end premium, where the 2 tight ends are going to go and where the 2 quarterbacks are going to go.
Yep.
Right around 206 is where it ends, unless you get a surprise pick. Someone fires on a Milrow early, someone fires on a Bashal Tootin early,
And
then it
there's
drops
not,
one more pick.
yeah, and
It's
that's
not
it's a huge tier break, and I think that
huge drop,
the
huge
two
drop.
the
So
two
when you sell
yeah.
back, when you trade back, don't go past the 206. Try and get that 203, 204, 205. You're going to be happy with the outcome and the additional profit. Sorry, Jax, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you said it. And I think I was just going to add to that Cam Scatabo seems to be that 206 almost every
Yes,
Yeah.
time. It's kind
it's
of weird.
him. I've seen
Yeah.
him. I've seen Harris.
Yep.
There's another one. We're in the
Burden.
in one other league. Tootin went. And
Yes.
so it fell to 207. That's where the tier
Yes.
break happened. But it still happened, right? Like one person reached a little bit and it moved it slightly. But anyways, yes, that's basically it. It's the Scatabo, Harris, Burden sort of range, right?
And so
Those are
for
the guys, and it's all interchangeable. You want any of those guys.
another easy trade to make, the one that's going to give you the most net value going forward is going to be pre-draft. Before the draft happens, if you look and you have the 207, 208, 209, you have a late second. You just move that sucker to anywhere in that
Yeah.
top 206 and in. and you can do so kind of like if you're moved from the 208 to the 205, someone will be like, "What? You want to fuck? Who gives a shit?" They're like, they have other picks. They're like, "Yeah, whatever." And like this guy offered me this thing where I got the whatever. I moved from the three. He asked me to go from the 208 to the 205, and all I had to do is he gave me the 301 instead of the 311. I was like, "Wow, of
Mhm.
course I'll do that." Sounds like such a
Yeah.
deal. No, it's not. You just fleeced that dude because the 301 and the 311, I literally have no idea who to take versus who in that third round. It's a very jumbled third round. I have some opinions, but man, oh man, they're not very rigid. But yet I'm so sure that the 205 is going to be more valuable pick than the 208.
I've got a real life example of this today, and I'm going
So do I.
to
Yeah, you both do.
and all right. So I was sitting at the 201, 2, 3, 4. I was sitting at the 204, and our boy Curdy, shout out Curdy, he comes to me with an offer, a second next year, and I'm just moving back to the 207. Now at this time, I'm looking at the board and I'm like, all right, Higgins, Scattaboo, and Trey Harris are all on the board. It'd have to go runner for me not to get any of these guys. Somebody is going to make a mistake. I knew that the tier break was there, but somebody I thought was going to make a mistake, and I was going to get one of Higgins, Scattaboo, or Trey Harris. And no, I did not. It went exactly in that order: Higgins, Scattaboo, Trey Harris. And so then I got stuck at the 207 tier break. Now, granted, I picked up a second next year, and that team's in pretty damn good shape, which is part of why I did this, because I knew my fallback option was to do what I did, which I'll explain in a second. But I'm already kind of set at running back. I'm already kind of set at receiver. The second round pick next year helps because it's kind of an older team. So I was willing to do it because my fallback option was to grab a third quarterback in a league where I don't have one. And I view the 207 as the sweet spot for who is now our boy, who we've been talking shit about for months, but is now our boy, the
Yes.
QB3, Jalen Milrow.
Yeah, we're about it.
By the
We
way,
are about it.
real quick, Joe, that is also the other trade. So if you're on the clock and you need to make a move from the 207, 208, 209 into that top 205 and under, you offer your second next year. So you offer your 208 and your second for the 205 and their third next year. And if you think about it, it sounds like they're winning because they're getting a second for a third where you're only moving a little bit in the second. They're going to maybe buy that deal. That people are going to buy that deal without looking at where shit's going to fall. They're not necessarily paying attention. Maybe they are, even like Joe was paying attention and might still take the deal. But what will happen is you're basically getting that because as Joe just pointed out, with that top 16, 18 pick, you're actually getting a quote unquote first rounder. Whereas after that, you're getting a third rounder. You know what I mean? So you're really trading a
Yep.
second for a third this year anyway,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. And that's the only reason I did it, because I knew Milrow was my pivot, and
Yeah.
I had only two quarterbacks. This was the startup, our listener league, and I got Josh Allen and I got Geno Smith, and I didn't bother with any other ones because I was like, I'm just gonna take a bunch of these scrubs this year, and one of them will be fine, right? Here's my scrub. It's Milrow, and I got another second next year.
Trav, you want to tell
That's pretty
how
good.
I took advantage of you?
I not really, but I
Okay, you don't
do,
have
and I will.
Trav was so busy
Yeah,
doing the
I
score,
was
the
today
UN
I
today
know,
score.
was
I know, I know.
insane.
I felt
I made
bad.
this trade with you while I was cooking dinner for the family, while I
He
was checking
countered
Discord
bad.
to
Yeah.
see and I don't think it's that bad, but it's
No,
bad.
but it's bad.
Um, like, it's
It's
not too bad.
it's
It's a
2
few
seconds for
spots.
2 seconds is what it is the trade.
Yeah,
So it's not the
essentially, it was
craziest
2
thing in the world.
seconds for 2 seconds, so it's not that crazy, and
Right.
I paid a little bit more to have another bullet in this year's draft,
Right.
because what I thought was about to happen was so essentially, Jax originally sent me
Yes.
an offer for my 206 and my third next year for his 210 and his second next year, so I was moving a third from next year up to a second, which is fine. That's good. That is good value there. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually wanted to flip it and be a bit of the aggressor because I wanted to get another pick in this year's draft on top of that move back. And I did. But you had the 210 and the 211. And so I put the 210 and 211 on the trade. I put my 206 back on the trade, and then I put my third from 2026 on there. And I was like, okay. And I was looking, and honestly, Jax, I was thinking, fuck, I got a lot of shit going on. I don't have time to have a back and forth with Jax right now. I can't really I don't have time to like finesse this with you and figure this out or whatnot, because I felt like if I came back with a third next year for those 2 picks this year, we were going to have to start working through some stuff to find something. Cause I don't think you were going to let me get away with just that. I think there was going to be another little squeeze happening, and I was going to have to loosen that grip a little bit while you were trying to squeeze. And I just didn't have time for that. And so I sent you my 206 and a second next year for the 210 and the 211 this year. So basically, the only way you don't move up on both picks is if you win the league this first
Right.
season and you get the 212.
Yes.
Um,
Which of course I
or I
might
guess
do. I'm always
if
with
I
you.
do, sorry,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I do, because I
Right.
need to give you the
This
212.
is
So yeah,
the this is
I
the
paid
this
a
is
little
the
extra to get more bullets this year, but it sucks because my bullets didn't necessarily fire. There was still some guys, and I actually might even push back with you guys on this 206 thing, depending
mm,
on the league format, just because when I look at the guys that I took at the 210, 211, thinking about the cost, and thinking about if it's going to be a tight end premium, my next
mm,
2 picks were Jalen Noel and Terrence Ferguson. So Terrence Ferguson, like, we were talking about Jack Besh as the lunch pail prince that was promised for the Rams.
yeah.
It's Terrence Ferguson, man.
Yes, it
They took
was.
him with serious capital to be a part of this passing game. And
That's true.
so in a tight end premium, Terrence Ferguson at the 211, happy as hell with that. Jalen Noel, if he becomes a guy alongside Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins, which the path could be there from day one with Tank Dell's injury. And then if Jalen Noel can show out like we think he can, I think he's going to be a bargain at that 210. That team's going to run a ton of 3 wide receiver sets, boys. So Jalen Noel is going to be on the field. I'm not worried about John Mechie. I'm not worried about Xavier Hutchinson for him. Only guy I would be worried about is Tank Dell, and Tank Dell is going to
Christian
be
Kirk.
hurt for potentially, yeah, Christian Kirk. Fuck Christian Kirk. He's not going to last for that long.
But here's why that's a tier break though, is because you just went from Trey Harris, who was the 55 pick overall,
Yep.
Yeah,
to Jalen Noel, who was the 15th pick in the third round. And so there's a huge drop off in, like, historically wide
fair.
receivers that are drafted in the second round versus the third round. And we love Noel. We love Noel. I
Well,
was
totally. And
had him
even with
Less
Harrison in a
now
tight end
though.
premium, like
way
Ferguson
less now.
closes that gap in a tight end premium, I would say, though.
Yes,
Like if we're looking at the tight end,
I have
Ferguson's a lot
yeah,
closer.
I have no qualms with Ferguson, and I agree with you that he's basically, I mean, that's a whole different tier in and of itself. By the way, I nailed the tight end tiers in this draft class pre-draft. But anyways, Ferguson, Arroyo, and Taylor are a super interesting tier in and of themselves. But the fact that they're this tier means that, like, you could get one of them at like the 302, the 304, right? So like that's why it's like you traded into the beginning of the next tier. That's kind of my
Yeah,
point.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As I look at it, you're totally
At,
right. I'm
at
just saying, like,
receiver and at tight end.
even
You
in a
like those guys.
situation where you want more bullets, I'm not even necessarily opposed to trading back to
Yes.
the back of the second. You know what I mean? If I have like say the guy that I don't want is at 205 or whatever, trading back and getting some more value on that isn't necessarily terrible if you like some of these guys, right? Like even after my Terrence Ferguson pick, Kyle Williams, potentially the
Yeah.
wide receiver 1 for the New England Patriots,
Yeah.
and Drake May went at the 212 in this draft.
Yep.
Bashal Tootin is who I'm pissed about though. I wanted him
Am I up
over
then?
Jalen Noel, and you are not on the clock, no.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
Bashal is who I really wanted with that 210, and CMFK, that motherfucker,
Yep.
took
That's his
Bashal
name.
Tootin right before. So I risked it for the biscuit on that because I knew I was paying a little bit of a premium to get this extra bullet. Let's wrap this one up because we've been spending too much time on this. But
I'm
it bit
about to
me in the
smash a
ass
trade though.
because Bashal Tootin was the guy that I really wanted with the first of those 2 bullets, and I didn't get him, so I had to pivot to Jalen Noel. So yeah.
All right. I actually have a topic that I want to discuss because I noticed a phenomenon in the NFL draft this year, and I think it plays into the wide receiver tiers big time, and also the UN model. Did you guys notice that in round 4 of the NFL draft, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 of the sub 4-4 guys in round 4.
Hmm.
That is basically where the NFL unanimously agreed these sub 4-4 guys belong. Shamiri Dyke, Dante Thornton, Arian Smith, Jalen Lane, Jalen Royals, and Jordan Watkins. These dudes, aside from Royals, were not on the radar. I mean, they were on the radar, but they were on like the tail end of your draft, fourth, fifth round
Deep
pick
sleeper
type of
area.
radar. Not like not fourth round capital, not right after, the guys that went in the third round, and not before the guys who went in the fifth and sixth rounds, the Torrey Hortons and the, Ricardo Blancos,
Mm.
right? So I actually think there's this weird phenomenon that took place in the NFL draft this year where it's like all these 4-3 guys went in a cluster. And the NFL basically told us, like, here's where we're going to take our situational deep threats. My theory is the dudes that went after them in the fifth, sixth, and seventh rounds have a higher likelihood of succeeding in the NFL because fourth round capital is not enough at receiver to secure you a job, anyways. But it is a place where they're willing to roll the dice for that type of player. But the dudes that went after actually have more traditional skill sets, particularly like Torrey Horton, right? Tez Johnson, who the model liked pre-draft, Ricky White, who we've talked about kind of checking all these boxes, but ran a 4.61. Like, I actually think there's this thing that's taking place where it's like draft capital is really important up until like the top 60 total drafted players for wide receiver. Then in the third round, I mean, you're lucky if you get one of these guys to hit. Savion Williams, Jalen Knoll, Ty Felton, Pat Bryant, Isaac Tesla is one of the fast guys that went early. Kyle Williams. Like, we're lucky if one of those guys is a hit. Round 4, the only guy that wasn't a sub 4-4 guy was Alec Ayamaner, who we actually kind of like and actually is probably the best bet of the round 4 wide receivers if he can develop. And then like the dudes after that, I think have a better chance than the round 4 guys. So I just wanted to point out this interesting phenomenon.
I don't necessarily know about that because I think those guys, all those guys that you look at that went after the fifth round, I think, those two that you mentioned,
It's
who was
Torrey
it?
Horton and Ricky
Torrey
White.
Horton and Ricky White, we do like, and they do have somewhat of paths there. But if you look at some of the other names there, like LaJohntay Wester, Jimmy Horn, Tommy
Yeah.
Millott, Tez, we don't like. But if you look at some of the other guys, Joe,
Tez
like those
Johnson's the only one with a shot.
those
Maybe
fourth round
Monfro.
guys
Those are
with
seventh
speed,
round picks.
what that speaks to me for fantasy football is ceiling, though, Joe. And if I look at Alec Aymanor, I know you just talked about him. That guy's got some ceiling. Jalen Royals with Kansas City, there is ceiling there.
Oh
Jalen
yeah.
Lane, even as a deep threat for Washington, that is ceiling. So I would be way more inclined to take some late shots on these guys. Dante Thornton in Las Vegas, I want pieces of that.
I think Amanor is the only one that's got a shot at meaningful statistics,
Hmm.
and I think the other guys are just upside desperation plays. If you're hoping for a long touchdown, they're more DFS guys than anything.
Yeah,
I
but if
mean,
all these
really,
guys are long shots, though,
they're all
wouldn't
long
you want
shots.
the ones that can give you 10 points on one play?
I want the dude that could be the next Puka, right?
That's not gonna happen every year, though. Like, we're not gonna get that guy every year
I know.
necessarily. So
I
to
just
say
want
that those guys are want those guys above, I think is a little bit hot takey maybe. I
I
like it.
it might be a hot take. I would rather have Torrey Horton than everybody I just mentioned, aside from Amaner, right?
Yeah, and
I'd rather
Torrey
have
Horton is the one guy
yes,
there that I would probably agree with
yeah.
you on that, but,
I
like,
think I'd rather have Ricky White more than all
no,
those guys except for Amaner. I
not
don't
me.
believe in any of them. Their profiles don't support their draft capital being above these other dudes. And it's clear to me, like that's where all the 4-3 guys went, and that's what the NFL told us. Like this is the situational deep threat round, right? And those guys don't pan out
I
very
think,
often.
like, now that we have landing spots, though, like, it's like there's maybe some more context about the profiles, you know what I mean? Like I'm not anchoring as much necessarily to the profiles when I'm looking at the situation attached to it, which is where I like a toolsy guy like Dante Thornton for the Raiders a lot, or even a deep threat guy like Jalen Lane who comes into the Washington Commanders and pretty much looks like their second second on the depth chart deep threat behind Terry McLaurin, right? Like Luke McCaffrey, Debo Samuel aren't going to be deep threats. I like those guys. Like we talked about Amon, even Jalen Royals, like taking a dart on a guy in the Chiefs offense. And then
Oh,
Jalen
I
Watkins
glossed
in
over
San
Royals.
Francisco.
I'm sorry. I glossed over Royals. I really want Royals.
And even Jalen Watkins was kind of like had
Jordan
some
Watkins. Yeah, yeah.
impressive Jordan Watkins, sorry. I don't know why I thought Jalen.
They're all named
He
Jalen.
yeah, exactly. He had some impressive shit on tape too, and I think him with a good situation and some good opportunity. Like we look at what's happening in the wide receiver core for the Niners, it's a bit of a shit show right now. So I don't know. I think there's some more opportunity for some of these fourth round guys than you might be giving it credit for. But I don't want to
No,
be a broken record pushing back here.
I want to correct myself. Royals and Airmanor are the only ones I'm interested in that fourth round. And yeah, you can take your shots on those guys. I'm not going to be doing that. But anyways, I just thought it was interesting because like all the fast guys went in the fourth round.
Yeah, totally. That is quite the pocket. I'm looking at I actually found that I don't like giving them a shout out, but the ESPN kind of draft section of their website is like an easier one to navigate than some of the other sites. And so I'm looking at that one, and that is
Yeah.
quite the pocket. Arian Smith right near the top of that group too, Joe.
Yeah.
Interesting. Shamir
Yeah.
DK, number one.
Look at all their UN scores though, and then look at the
Yeah,
guys below
for
them.
sure. For sure.
What are we doing about these tight ends? Because I think that's a big one. I'll tell you, I'm not sure what league this was in. Was this the league I'm in with you? Yes. Joe, where did I get Tyler Warren in a tight end premium league at the 204?
204, 205, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah, let me
crazy.
pull it up.
204.
Yep, he was
Yeah.
203 in the one we're all in together too.
All
I
right,
mean,
so I
this is
I
a
have I have
bait.
a I have another hot take. I just gave a hot take. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it right now. All right, so like shout out to us. We nailed Loveland as the better tight end in this class, and sure enough, and Trav, you led the charge on that. I
Yep.
followed shortly thereafter, but we decided like I just like Loveland more from a you know he produced right away as opposed to being a 50-year breakout.
Yep.
He's a more versatile, smoother receiver, and he's a decent blocker, right? My take is this though. Loveland is severely overvalued in tight end premium leagues now because of his landing spot. So it's like awesome that he was whatever, the ninth pick, but dude, DJ Moore's on that team. Now you have Luther Burden on that team, and you already had
Rome Odunze.
Roma Dunze on that team.
And
He has
DeAndre
no
Swift.
path.
I mean,
What's your
know.
boy Andrew Cooper say that establishes a top tight end, right? They
100
need
targets.
to be 100 targets or the number 2 target getter on their team, or
Bingo.
they need to score 10 touchdowns.
Yep.
He has no path to being the number 2 target earner. I don't think he has a path to 100 targets on the team. Maybe, but I don't think so.
That'd be
right. So
wild.
he needs more to be gone in order to probably still be a top 3 target on that team. Like he is a super talented dude.
Yep.
That is now buried in this target squeeze. And so he's not worth a first round pick to me anymore. I was thinking if he gets top 10, top 15 capital, this guy's middle of the first round, no doubt, in tight end premium leagues. Now I'm staying away. I had
I think
multiple
that's
opportunities to draft him, and I'm
crazy.
out.
Yeah, I was my take coming into the show that I hadn't shared with you was that I was going to be fading both of these tight ends, fading them.
Mhm.
And then I get to the 204 and I'm like, looks like I'm not alone. I've got Tyler Warren on my lap, and I tried trading the pick, and nobody, I was messaging with one of the guys who was trying to trade for him, and they're like, I can't fucking believe he's here. I'm like, I know. I'm like, well, let's work this out, and we just couldn't work it out. It's fine. And I'm like, I go, I'm not getting many offers though, because all the guys that passed on him are the ones that are in this league.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they had their shot and they didn't take him. I mean, so that's kind of the point. I think there is more than one of us who is passing on this. Now I did see, I'm in a league with Scott Barrett and Danny Kelly. Is that no, that's the big game. And they took him at the 105, 106, something like that. 106. I have to go look. Loveland, that is. And I was like, oh, and that's where I got Travion. They went
Mhm.
Loveland, I went Travion, that either the 106, 107, 107. So that was they took him at the 106. Long story short is that is a pretty good tight end premium in that league. But again, I'm with you, Joe. Boy, oh boy, I'd rather just take some Terrence Ferguson and some, Arroyo and some
Arroyo, yeah.
Fannons
God,
Yep.
later.
in a tight end premium?
Yes,
Yes.
In a tight end premium.
yes.
The great irony is
He needs like
I
60 receptions to be probably as good as like a wide receiver one in a tight
But
end
then I
premium.
can get 60 receptions from Zach Ertz.
hey,
You're
not
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 getting
to
the
mention
production on top of the 60, like 60 receptions plus what Colston Loveland can
My
do
point
with
is
those
is he's
60
not worth the
receptions.
105, 106 in a draft if he
No,
just
not
they still
that,
have
not
Cole
that. But
Kmet
if you're
too.
looking
They
at
still
like
have
the
Cole Kmet too,
and they do have
sure,
right?
Cole Kmet. No,
And no, I know
no,
he's
he's
better
right.
than Kmet.
He's not saying
I
that
know
Cole
he's better
Kmet's
than
gonna
Kmet,
outplay
but
him,
this
right.
is just math. This is just math. He cannot get there.
He
The
can't
great
play off.
irony here is that I agree with you, Trav. Colson Loveland is the better tight end from a fantasy
That's right.
profile standpoint, no doubt.
We're with you.
And
oh,
we were
then
right.
Cole
And
Kmet,
he got
that's
drafted
semantics.
first.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and yeah.
now Warren is actually the more interesting dynasty pick because he's got a path to being the number 2 target earner on his team.
He
At the very
does.
worst, the
I
number
don't
3
agree.
target earner on his team.
I don't agree. I would still rather have the third target earner, and it's not going to be
Fourth,
in year one. I'd still
fourth,
not
maybe
in year
fifth.
one, but this is a tight end, and we play Dynasty, guys. We don't expect them all to produce in year one. If you get Colston
If he
Loveland
goes
as
out
the
and
tight
has
end 20, if he's the tight end 20 now, if you would
Mhm.
you take a tight end 20 season to have 6 more
No.
top 7 seasons over? You're not in his rookie season for a
No,
Dynasty
because here's
tight
the
end.
problem.
I'm not
If I
talking 107 either. I'm talking like
Hold on.
where he went in our draft, like the 110, 111. Hell
Oop.
yeah.
No, thank you, because I'll tell you why. Because if you get a tight end 20 season from him, everybody's out. What was
Yep.
Dalton
Then we
Kincaid
buy him for
fetching
cheap.
you?
Buy him for
What is
cheap.
Dalton Kincaid fetching you anywhere? Like, even in tight end premium
Yeah.
leagues, everybody's like, "Fuck that guy. He's radioactive. Nobody wants him. Nobody wants to touch him." You know, and he's no Kyle Pitts, Brock Bowers as a prospect in terms of, to use a term from Scott Connor, the AVF, the artificial fantasy value, whatever, and AFV. The point of the matter is that I don't think he holds on to that value. Whereas a player like Judkins or Caleb Johnson, I mean, they're pretty much locked into opportunity. I mean, at least you know
Oh,
what you're going to get.
I'm
You're going to get
definitely
that.
not over those guys, but I'm saying like, and I think it was actually backwards in this league. I got Luther Burden at 111 right behind Colston Loveland. I think that should be switched to where Luther Burden should be ahead, and Colston Loveland at the 111 I think is fantastic because like a couple years down the road he can easily be that second or third target. He might not, like, he's gonna have to flip-flop with Luther Burden and Roman Dunze, but long term DJ Moore is not a worry for me whatsoever on that team because he's not going to be
Eh,
on that team. And in a tight end
On it
premium,
this
the
year.
path. Okay, but the path, think about this though. If he has a shitty first season versus those other running backs,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a whole lot for him to regain that value by having a good season, right? So in a Ben Johnson offense, I'm going to take like the upside that he can give you, even if we get a shitty first season, knowing the guys that are in front of him. I think it's not going to be any worse than Tyler Warren's season. That's for sure.
I will
you
tell you
brought
this,
well,
Trav.
hold
I'll
on,
tell you
wait,
this.
let
Hold
me
on.
let
Let
me
me
go.
just
Let me
throw
go. Let me
one
go.
quick. Go ahead.
Oh my god,
Go
we
ahead.
both have points.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. All right. Trav, you brought up a Ben Johnson offense, right? All right. Sam Laporta, year one, as a rookie, shocks
Yeah.
the world and ends up being the tight end one that year. He was the number 2 target earner on the team that season. And Jameson Williams was on that team, but Jameson Williams didn't have his head on straight yet. And
Mm-hmm.
so Laporta lit the world on fire. Same offense the following year, once Jameson Williams was ready. What happened to Sam Laporta? He went from the
He
tight
was
end 1
banged up.
to, oh, okay,
Ooh.
sure. I think he fell down the ranks. That is with Amon Ra and Jameson Williams ahead of him in the target category. So it's like, yes, tight end can do well in the Ben Johnson offense if forced, but they've got 2 established wide receivers and a
Mm-hmm.
third one that just came in too. Like, I just don't see a path for him to even be, rookie or second year Sam Laporta because there's just the target squeeze is too much. This is just a math problem, right? Same
Interesting.
offense, same offense. Like
I think
once
it's a math
Jameson
problem for
Williams
1
emerged,
year.
Laporta went down.
We don't know
I
the
think
math
it's a math
problem for
problem
year
for
2.
1 year.
We don't know the
Yeah,
math
but
problem for
I'm
year 2.
willing to attach to year 2 of Colston Loveland, you know?
I
Okay.
am too, but I'm
Sure.
going to be
I'll
able
do
to
so
buy
when
him
I
for
can
a
buy him with
second
a
next
second
year.
round pick next year.
Maybe.
My gosh.
That's fine.
Incentive.
Oh my god.
Boom.
My
Exactly.
belt.
Because here's the thing. My point that I was gonna make was when Dalton Kincaid was the pick in the first round, I had late first, and people wanted Dalton Kincaid a couple years ago. Almost every single time I wanted to trade that pick. And I traded that very pick for a
Mhm.
single future first as much as I could. Because I don't remember the exact draft. You can go back and look at it, but there wasn't much after him. And there was like a spot where I was like, this is the Dalton Kincaid pick at 111, 112. And I would just who's wants Dalton Kincaid? Pay me a first. I'll get the fuck out of here. I don't want to spend the 111 on Dalton Kincaid. And I loved Dalton Kincaid. I just knew that there was a probability that he was going to decrease in value more than he was going to increase in value. What are the
That's
odds
that's what all
that
tight ends do,
that
though, right? Like,
well,
all
why
tight
take
ends who
him?
are touted like
Then why
that.
draft him? Why would
Because
you
I
I
draft
think
said
the
him?
production can come with them, though. You know what I mean? Like,
I
there's a
said wars
reason
were going to be
why
fought.
we still have a candle lit for Kyle Pitts, me and Joe at least. It's because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
think that
But that was a
upside could still
shitty pick
potentially
too, and
be
I
there.
told everybody
Well,
not to draft
but
Kyle
here's the
Pitts.
thing about Kyle Pitts
You're
is he's
making
got
the
a
point.
chance. He's got a chance to be the second leading targeter on his team still.
Look, I
We'll
said
see.
this
That's
about
the
Kyle
thing.
Pitts. People were like, Kyle Pitts
You were
101. I was
right.
like, you have lost all of your mind. There is no way in
Yeah.
hell you take Kyle Pitts 101. Kyle Pitts was the easiest fade of them all because he was like the Ted McMillan, where you're taking him at the 102, 103. That the point of the matter is not whether this guy's a good player or not, whether or not he can end up being good. It's what is your dynasty value? Because dynasty is a game of value, not a game of good players, bad players. It is a game of what am I going to do with my asset? And the asset is I have the 111. I'm not feeling very good. If you once you press the button for Colson Loveland, and then week one rolls around and you're like, oh, he didn't even really play. He played like 40% of the
Cole
snaps
Kmet's
and
ahead
got
of
two
him.
targets. You're like, what the fuck? What did I do with the 111?
I
I
don't know,
burnt it.
man.
It's gone.
You,
He
Trav,
got drafted pretty
You
fucking
can buy
high,
him in
boys. He's
November.
getting on the field.
You can buy him in November. I
Yeah,
think you get
okay.
him for a second by November.
Okay, that's fine. But I
We'll
think
see.
you guys are also operating under the fact that you're just getting a first with any like these trade backs. You know what I mean? I think I want to be able to get all the trade backs that you guys can fucking get because I never get all of those deals.
I mean, just stop clinging to guys you like. This is the whole idea
But
behind
even
it.
so, like
You
even
were
so,
right.
like
You won. You won. You were right. He was the better tight end. He win at 109.
no, but I don't
But
win until he's on my roster producing as a top
you
tight
want to
end.
roster bait to him?
No, I don't want to necessarily roster bait. I want to win titles with him as my starting tight end. I think that's what we all
What are
want
the
to do is
odds that
win.
he's a top
That's
five
why I
tight end
like
production?
taking players in the drafts that I'm in instead of
There's
pushing it
almost a
forward and forward and
0%
forward.
chance he's a top five tight end production wise. You're not getting that. There's
He
actually a
could be
better chance
eventually.
that Terrence Ferguson is a top five producer, or even
I
crazily
absolutely. When has
Bannon.
Sean McVay ever had a top 5 tight end? When?
One
I
time.
like
When
Terrence
did
Ferguson.
Andy
Yeah,
Reid have a
what?
top five tight end before
Fucking
Kelsey?
Jordan Reed back in the day. I would say Brett Selleck probably bordered on that shit back in the day with the Eagles.
Oh,
I
we're
love
talking
Brett
Brett
Selleck.
Selleck.
That was just an opportunity to drop Brett
Nice
Selleck's
Brett
name, though.
Selleck.
Is all I was saying.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, that's all I was doing. He's a
I
No.
fucking
mean,
Eagles
the
legend.
players
Yeah,
make it
no,
a lot of the time.
you guys fucking got me on this, and I totally get it. But I am willing to like. I don't know what happens when you just want to get the player on your roster or when you don't find the trade back opportunities. Are you taking less to trade back out of it just because you don't think like
Probably take a different player.
I'm not gonna
That's
take
kind of my
less.
point. That's
You
Yeah, I
don't
kind of
don't
my
know
stop
point.
though.
loving. You don't stop loving Loveland.
Yeah, I'm trying, and you guys are
You
fucking
say I'll
trying to
see you
make me not.
later. You
No,
just
Yeah, I'll
say
see you
I
at the
will
next
see you
party.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
I
see you at
trying
the
to
love
get
next
in
him.
his
party.
He's
pants
just not
now.
ready.
Right.
I'm trying to get in his pants,
He's
boys.
with someone else right now.
That's
He's a
right.
little
Don't force it.
occupied. You know, he's got to
Yeah,
figure
just
some
lay out
Okay,
the
stuff
move us
out.
vibe.
along.
Go smoke a joint,
Fine.
hang out by the
DJ
Quickie
Moore
Mart.
just signed an extension before last season, dude. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. A
Oh,
trade
they
needs to
can make something
happen.
happen on that. They can make something happen on that.
I mean,
Let's
they
look up that
could. Do they
contract.
Why
want
would
to? I
they?
don't
Why
know.
would they? To
Yeah.
open up your
Did you hear the
111?
press conference where they put a stern word to DJ Moore about the Luther Burden pick, saying that they hope that it makes people motivated to earn their spot on the team, and those people that they were talking about were DJ Moore. I don't think DJ Moore is long for the Bears, boys.
All right, listen.
Anyway,
I hope he gets traded. I hope he gets traded. But right now,
Me too.
yeah,
DJ
because
Moore is the
then
wide receiver one on
everybody's
that
dope
team.
again. Because then
Yeah.
everybody's dope again if DJ Moore gets traded. But
Or
now
when
they're
we
all
start,
like,
Or you just have
"Nah."
Dalton Kincaid.
I have a
You know?
lot of Dalton Kincaid jackets.
Yeah, yeah.
Figures.
You're not surprised.
Trav touches Trav touches a hot stove every morning.
Yeah. You know what I have for breakfast, guys? I have bacon
Ouchie.
every
Okay,
morning,
let's
and
make
I
some
cook it
food. It's
naked.
ready.
I cook bacon naked for breakfast
Sorry
every
about that.
morning. Yeah, sorry. Always maple bacon too. Always maple flavored bacon.
Oh shit. Well, I said there were going to be
Oh.
battles fought over the
Oh,
target
Yeah,
distribution in
and there's
Chicago.
so
I think
many
we
more
just
to be
fought the
fought.
first one. We
We
just
did
fought the
fight
first
one. We
one.
did
It's
fight
going to
one, and this
be
is
a
good.
topic.
okay.
Yeah.
What about Luther Burden while we're here?
Oh, okay. Fuck. Are we
You
doing
can
this still?
start,
All
Joe.
right.
You can start, Joe.
Man, all right. If we're gonna
This is
go Ben
rough.
Johnson analogs, if we're gonna go Johnson analogs, he kind of feels like the Amon Rod, doesn't he? Like
Of
I
course.
thought it was gonna be DJ Moore, but I kind of think
So
it's
did
Luther
I.
Burden now. I kind of think it's
Same.
Luther Burden now. So to Trav's earlier point, like DJ Moore might be on the outs. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, Rome is staying outside. That's where he belongs. Dude is an X. He can move a little bit, but he's primarily an X. Um, I'm not sure. Now, I think Ben Johnson's creative enough to move these dudes
Yep.
around and find a new way to fit the scheme to the personnel he has, and they're
Agree.
loaded, right? But that's still not enough targets to go around. So Burden is not a great bet for year one, I would say. But I
Yep.
think that the offense probably still runs through the slot receiver, whoever that is. And I think there's going to be an interchangeability between him and DJ Moore in that spot that probably makes the offense more efficient. But like Burden doesn't have to be slot. He can go outside and DJ Moore can be playing the slot. So I think they're probably going to switch off back and forth. I don't know how many three receiver sets they're going to run. Who knows? We don't know. It's a new team.
They
But I
ran
don't
a
know.
lot of
Long term,
12.
he feels like a real good bet, though. He feels like a real
Yep.
good bet long term. I'd rather bet on him long term than Loveland, and I'll still get Loveland in a
Yeah,
year or two.
yeah,
It's
that's fair.
it's pretty sketchy because first of all, Ben Johnson ran a lot of 12 personnel. I think he was like third in the NFL in 12. Whatever, it was a high number. You can look it up. I think the other thing that I'm seeing as well is okay. This feels a lot like the Dallas Cowboys when CeeDee Lamb got there and it was Amari Cooper and Gallup. I'm not saying that it's identical. I'm just saying when he got there, it was like I remember I did the projections and I was like, I think they're all going to get about 100 targets, which sucks. I think Gallup was like, I'm like, he's going to get just under, Amari just over, and CD right around 100, and that sucks for all three. I'm starting to feel the same way here, and I think the target squeeze is even worse because you have to add Loveland and DeAndre Swift and Komet, which, look, those guys aren't necessarily going to have these huge target shares, but Trav is really hopeful for Loveland. That means that we're talking, okay, if Loveland's seriously, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, no,
Loveland's going to
you're
put
right.
himself in that situation. Now, where's all these targets going to go? Because I mean, you take a 25% target share and you go, okay, that's the number, 20 to 25. Well, if you have four guys that you want to get 20, guess what? That, like he says, the math doesn't work. You're really looking at 15 to 20% target shares for these guys, and that would be a lot. Unfortunately, that gets none of them home. And if you're going to say DJ Moore, who is clearly the alpha there still, today as we sit, DJ Moore is the best wide receiver on that team, period, end of statement. How much is he going to get? He's going to get to 25. Well, then where does it go from there? He's not going to get 30% either. So this hurts DJ Moore. This hurts all of them. And I think it's a situation where, yeah, you have to believe, to Trav's point, like I believed in CeeDee Lamb, that he was that much of a superstar, that he was going to find his way through and become that. And that's how you have to feel about Luther Burden. Otherwise, just let him go by. If you think he's sort of okay, pretty good, not worth a pick at his ADP. If you think he is a CeeDee Lamb type of guy, Amon-Ross type of guy, he's worth that because eventually he'll find his way when, admittedly, DJ Moore moves on, etc. But that's a big bet to make. At least you're making it
I
at a
think
lesser cost.
I think he is because I think he's the layup throw guy. I think he's the
Yeah.
layup throw yak guy,
Yeah, yeah, he
and
definitely is.
I
DJ
think
Moore can
that's
do
what
that. Like,
Ben
that's the weird
Johnson.
part.
Yeah, I think that's what the Ben Johnson offense is built around. I think the
Yeah.
malcontents are going to be either Roma Dunze, who that's not really in his character, I don't believe, or is DJ Moore? So to Trav's point, like I think I think we're gonna have DJ Moore problems this year, but I don't want to speculate too much. My point is the way the offense has worked, the slot gets fed, and dude that can get deep gets fed. So we'll see. But we spent enough time speculating on the Bears for
Well,
now.
and
It's interesting.
the funny thing
Yes,
about
we
that
have.
is Amon-Ra is like a 53% slot player to like 40 something percent wide. So he does it
Yeah.
all. And if Luther Burden's getting that in this offense, we're like, I'm all in on Luther Burden, by the way. And I think some of what you're talking about there is baked into the cost, right? Because think about it. If Luther Burden goes in there and he doesn't have, say, Colston Loveland drafted ahead of him and DJ Moore, say it's Luther Burden and only Rome Odunze, Luther Burden is definitely being talked about in the same conversation as Tet and Hunter. So I think some of that stuff is kind of baked into the price on Luther, that he's not going to have a good season, because this is the nuts landing spot. Like, absolutely. It's just those guys are there. And I'm seeing the future of this team being Rome, Burden, and Colston Loveland. And I think it's going to be fantastic. And they can all be fruitful in that. And I would say, guys, to kind of wrap this one up here, of all of these four guys that we're going to have in this target totem pole, if one of them is going to make you feel okay with how he finished on a 15% target share, which one is it going to be?
I would
It's
say it's
Colston Loveland,
oh
because a tight
yeah, you're
end
right. You're
with
right.
15% target share can be a top 7 tight end, and a wide receiver with 15% target share can't.
My
Yeah, that's
my
fair.
I'm
my
still not saying
the,
I'm right on the conversation that we had. I'm just saying there's avenues for Colston,
yeah.
baby.
The only thing I was thinking about as you were
Trying.
asking that question is like, boy, I sure hope Caleb Williams is good.
Yeah,
Because if he's not,
yeah.
then we're all
He's
I was going to
so
say
in
this
like,
is the
he
no
can't
more
be bad.
excuses for Caleb. No more
no,
excuses.
no,
He has
none,
to be
none.
atrocious if he's bad in this situation, because
As
it
an
is
aside,
phenomenal.
if Tyson Bagent is available in your Superflex league, just go at him. Just go at him. Just in case. Just go at him. Because
Okay, can I
I think he could be a top 20 quarterback on this team.
I want to say one quick thing before. Sorry, we're just fucking beating this dead horse. But biggest winner, one of the biggest winners of the draft for me was DeAndre Swift, and I got him in like the 24th round of the startup that we just did in the
nice
underground. So I just want to shout that out, because that
huge
is
win.
looking roses right now. And so I was jumping for joy in the draft every time the Bears did not take a running back.
First of all, how dare you disrespect Manungai, my guy, Manungai, like that. Second of all, scuttlebutt is this, guys. This was as of like 7 hours ago. Nick Chubb is looking like his likely landing spot is looking like Chicago. So I
Wow.
would not go counting your chickens just yet. I would probably still be
Trade those
selling
chickens.
Swift.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, you
yes.
can
It's like, hey,
definitely
dude,
spell
what
DeAndre Swift right now.
all they got is Manungai. Like
Yeah,
here, just take
totally.
DeAndre Swift, huge winner of the draft. Take him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
get rid of him.
By the way, I want
Yeah,
to
shitty
also
part
say
is every league mate of mine that I would try and sell them to is listening to this show right now. So
not
not
yet.
Do it
gonna
in
be
the
able to do
next
that in that
24
one.
hours. Do it tonight.
Yeah.
Not
Trade
yet.
Swift tonight.
Yeah.
Listen, I just wanted to say also, ironically, we talked about the top running backs. I also think either I did or we all did have also Cam Scatabo at running back 7, which he is. So we really nailed the top 7 running backs. And I
Mhm.
wanted to mention this because I think the other thing I'm trying to work out in my head is how to play. You guys sort of touched on it, and I sat it out a little bit, but the part about the secondary wide receivers, I actually think there's probably okay. So there's those 7 running backs. There's the 2 tight ends we've beaten to death, which we'll hold them there. And then I think there's 3 tight ends. I think Mason Taylor people like as well. I don't know. I'm kind of lukewarm. Whatever. He'll probably be the stud out of the whole group now that I don't like him. But Fannin, Arroyo, Ferguson. Let's throw Mason Taylor in there. Those are the 6 tight ends that I think have some top 2-3 round sort of stickiness. Plus those 7 running backs. Plus the 2 quarterbacks. Plus whatever. There's a firewall of wide receivers that I think that we should really be thinking about and sort of stopping and then blocking your nose and picking running backs, right? Because do I want to draft Dylan Sampson? Of course I don't. Do I want to draft DJ Giddens? No. Do I want to draft Devin Neal? Of course I don't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to draft any of these guys. They're all backups. They're all got worse draft capital. Ollie Gordon, Damian Martinez, all the guys we quote unquote liked Trevor Etienne got pretty good capital, but he's behind, an injured Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard right now. It's just like there's no good landing spots for any of these guys. So, but I do want to be forcing myself to draft them ahead of wide receivers that'll never see the light of day. And so I think you have to probably just look at maybe the top 10-ish wide receivers. At some point, you've got to just turn away from them and start drafting these running backs. I think for me, as I look at it, Besh, the model does not like, so we'll probably let Besh pass. But Jalen Noel, Kyle Williams, Ayamanor,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Royals and Horton a little bit are interesting.
Where do you have
After,
Pat Bryant in there?
yeah, I know. Ty Felton and Pat Bryant are edges for me. I really like
Yeah,
Ty Felton. I think he scores well
I
in the
like both those
model,
guys.
right? You really
That was
like
another
him,
great
Trav.
Trav call, by the way. Ty Felton was
That was
leading the
my
Great
charge
guy.
on
call.
Ty Felton.
Yep.
That was my guy.
And
Yeah.
I'm still in on him because he has a pretty clear path to an opportunity as the wide receiver 3 in Minnesota. But at some point or another, you're better off taking Ollie Gordon than I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I just want to turn
All right,
away from these wide receivers at some point.
Trav, where
Yeah.
you at on this one?
I think I have about Matthew Golden is such a curious one, right? Because he could be almost like a tier break within those wide receivers or at the back half of this tier of wide receivers. You know what I
But you don't
mean?
have to worry because
He's going way before. Yeah,
takes
way
someone
before
takes
we're
him
taking
always
Matthew
before.
Golden, someone's gonna take him.
Yeah,
He's
that's
one of
right.
those.
That's right. So
Yep.
if I'm looking at where I've got like who I would be taking, yeah, it's those guys, right? Alec Ayamanor. I think I got about 13 wide receivers. And then looking at those running backs that you said, it's got to be the tight ends that I think for me that
Yep.
kind of come right after those guys. But those wide receivers at cost, I wouldn't be too hurt about. Like if we're looking at our draft, we're getting into the back of the second and we start to take them. That's fine.
Guys, I'm done. I'm done at wide receiver basically after Trey Harris. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After 6 wide receivers, I'm on to that big tier of running backs, and I'm not stopping until, let's see, Tootin, Giddens, Jarquez Hunter, Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal. I've got Brashard Smith in there still. That's a
Yep,
whole nother
me too.
conversation. Taj Brooks, Woody Marks has entered the chat.
Yes, he has.
I think like that tier, I think at tight ends it's Ferguson, Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin, Elijah Arroyo. That's probably its own tier. And then I'm taking Jackson Dart and then, excuse me, I'm sorry, Milrow. And then, maybe Shador.
I'm taking Shador.
over the rest of those wide receivers, which is going to get you into the middle of the 4th round.
I almost took
least.
Shador over Milrow.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about it too. I'm like, where is Shador? Shador might be still a 2nd round pick in Superflex. I think he's a 3rd round pick. I'll
Just
tell you this. I'm taking him. I'm taking him on QB needing teams in the 3rd round for sure.
Name the players, name the quarterbacks that he is competing with. Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson, who's hurt, and Dylan Gabriel. Those are the players that he has to beat out.
Might not even make the day 1 roster.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett
No,
might not even be there.
Shador.
Sorry, boys. I just had the biggest coughing fit of all time. You might be able to
It's
see him
okay,
crying.
buddy. You're right.
Shador is starting for the Browns by October. I think Flacco gets the veteran nod, and I think Shador is going to come in. The fans are going to want it. The pressure's going to be on. It's happening.
Yes,
It's
I agree.
happening. So just think of Shador as a 2nd round pick.
I
This is a
agree.
whole nother conversation. Trav,
I want to go back to the wide receivers real quick, just because you said you said you stop at Harris, and I think I put a couple of other guys in there.
Okay.
So I put Kyle Williams. Like I like the next tier too, right? When we look at the Besh, Williams, Jalen Noel, Ayamanor, whatever order you want them, I like those guys before those running backs too. Is that what you were saying as well?
No, I like them too.
You want the running backs before them.
Once we get there, you're at wide receivers based on our model, which is basically like a 20% hit rate, right? I will gladly forego that cluster of wide receivers to take these running backs where if they hit, they're going to hit hard.
Yeah,
right?
I do. I
If
do like
Giddens,
that point. Yeah.
If
They hit
Giddens,
bigger.
Bayshell, Tootin, Jarquez, Hunter, Dylan Sampson, any of these guys,
Any
right?
of them.
Save for
any of them
maybe
hit,
Kyle
they're going
Williams.
to hit way harder than a 20% wide receiver chance, right? Like, so
That's right.
I'm done with them.
You're right. Yeah.
And to my other point, like earlier, where I was saying the 4th round guys are kind of just smoke from how fast they ran. Like I'll just take my Ricardo Blancos and my Torio Hortons and
Totally,
say thank you very
totally.
much.
That's right.
I wanna
Right?
find
Like
a way to take a shot at those guys, though, you know what I mean?
I
Like, I
want Noel.
kinda wanna have, like, a Noel, I wanna have a Williams on my team, like, look at the opportunity that guy could be running into.
I do too.
Um,
And
Yeah.
the one that kind
but
of
it's like yeah,
interests me most
fair,
is kind
yeah.
of Ty Felton. Ty Felton kind of interests me most
The
at
the
this
the
point.
the
Just
He's even
problem
a
with
little
it
bit back of those guys, I'd say, though.
the problem with it is this: if Jalen Noel works his way past Christian Kirk and is the wide receiver 3 in Houston, or if Ty Felton, man, he gets on the field over Jalen Naylor and he's the wide receiver 3, who really cares? Their
what do you
value didn't
win? Yeah.
well, you didn't win much. But
Yeah. What do you win when you
if
win?
if DJ Giddens is behind JT and JT pops an Achilles or something or whatever, like a high ankle
Don't say
sprain,
that shit.
you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're
Joe
saying.
Yeah,
Mixon,
yeah.
gets a high ankle sprain, and all of a sudden Woody Marks is running the backfield. You're like, dude, Woody Marks is a weekly DFS play as a running back 13 overall.
And
You
I
know,
can get a second-round pick for him.
you can get maybe a
Yeah,
first round pick
yeah,
sometimes for these
yeah.
Yes.
running backs,
You guys
right?
got me.
So
You guys got
all
me.
That's a
these
Zach
guys,
Charbonnet situation.
Brashard Smith is way more valuable than Carson Steele or what was the other guy out there? You know what I mean? These guys that,
Yeah,
Jordan Mason, right? All these guys, right? They brought real value. And so you have a bunch of these guys. Jarquez Hunter, look, he's behind 2 guys, but who knows? He could be behind 1. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen there. It could be Jarquez Hunter's over Blake Corum. I pointed out that all 3 of those guys have like 3rd, 4th, and 5th round draft capital. None of them are,
mhm.
super well invested in. Dylan Sampson, he's behind, one player in Judkins. If Judkins were to get hurt, right?
That's a
So,
1-2 punch, yeah.
right. So all these guys are like one guy down. All of a sudden, they could be seeing
Yeah.
real work. Ollie Gordon,
Odds are much better.
could he be the RB2? He could be the
Mhm.
RB2 in, Jaden Blue, who we don't really like, could be the
Dude,
RB2.
Can I push back? I want
Chad from Texas is stoked right now.
He knew.
Oh,
He
he
knew.
is. He really is. He really is. He knew something. I want to push back on Ollie Gordon for a second. Actually, guys, like we talked about this a few weeks ago. The one thing we wanted is for Ollie Gordon to go to gap scheme, and he did not.
Right.
So like I'm actually very bearish on Ollie Gordon. I think he might be my biggest follower. Him and Damian Martinez. And Damian Martinez is not anything that Damian Martinez did. It's just like, oof, that
Tough
is a
spot. But
tough landing spot. It's like
Unless
depressing
they
landing
trade
spot for Damian
Sharps.
Martinez.
if they trade Charbonnet,
Yeah.
he's the
He
running
will
back 2
skyrocket.
behind an injury pro so
Oh,
that means
That's
we're
why you
taking that
want. That's
shot
why
on
you got
him
to
right
take
now.
a shot because
And
that.
I
oh,
think
well, but now he's a
with
fourth
Ollie
round pick.
Gordon
Right.
with Ollie
That's why
Gordon,
you can't take Torrey Horton over him, right? I mean, even though you want him.
Yeah.
even Ollie Gordon, like Ollie Gordon's the only big back in that backfield, really. So if
Yeah.
he comes in there and gets at least the goal line carries in a Mike McDaniel offense, that's a guy that
Bingo.
I want on my team. If one of those little dudes gets mucked and is out for a long time, Ollie Gordon's there. And I would trust Mike McDaniel to be able to work his system to fit the running back that he's got in there. And he went out and drafted Ollie Gordon. I think that's something that I really like to see. So I am still at cost in on Ollie Gordon. I'm not saying he's up in that tier right behind the Harvey and the Henderson type deal, but he's a couple tiers back to where he's a guy that I would take in that range. If we're talking about these guys who could have big upside, I want Mike McDaniel running backs.
Yeah. I mean, and he's a change of pace. It's so funny because normally we talk about change of pace being the small, fast guy. Now it's like the big, slow guy is the change of pace, the bruiser to Achan, which is a very interesting dichotomy that I
Yeah.
hope we see more of in the NFL. Just put the little guy out there, the little fast dude, make
And it's
him the
got
every down back, and then just beat people up at the end of the game with Ollie Gordon. So I don't think there's no value there, and he's got a great receiving profile. But I digress.
yes,
I just don't like the landing spot, and I
fair.
like he fell way down. I mean, it's like Trevor Etienne, Woody Marks, Taj Brooks. Shout out Matt Walbot. Taj Brooks
Yep.
might have gotten a nuts landing spot.
That was not too bad.
Right
Yeah.
for the dudes that are backups. That's the one. Him and Devin Neal are kind of, and Brashard Smith are kind of like the. Are we sure they're not going to be the ever down guy on that team? Like
Yeah.
Yes, you got to take some
soon?
shots with these guys. You got to
Mhm.
I
just,
would rather, yeah, and that's it.
like
I'd
I
rather
said,
take
block
shots
your
on
nose
them.
and push the button for a running back.
Yeah.
I'd rather take shots on them than basically any of these wide receivers. and then selectively I'm going to fire on my AMAiners and my Hortons and my Jalen Royalses. But
Yep.
like, yeah,
At
it's
value only. At value.
yeah,
Reelses?
Royal Eye,
Ro
Rolexes,
Royale. Your
Royale.
Royale. Yeah,
Royales.
Royales. Yeah.
I like Royales. Yeah, you're right. That's how we should say it.
Oh, where are we steering this ship now, fellas? This has been the freaking voyage that we've been on, and it's been fantastic. Let's talk
Where's the
about.
Shador.
shuck? Where's oh yeah, Shuck
Hold
and
on, no, no, no.
Shador. Can we?
On the
Okay.
Shuck
same
and
theme,
Shador.
first we have to talk about like pretty much the show's mascot, Harold Fannin Jr.
Yeah.
We talked a little Shador, and we're going to talk about Shador because that's a very important conversation to have. But Fannin Jr., where
We
does he
asked for
fall in
third
that
round.
tight end
We
scale?
asked for
Because
third round draft capital. We got it. So we got
Yeah, we
what we
did.
wanted for Harold Fannin. We got early third round draft capital too. So I love it.
yeah,
They took him over Shador Sanders.
yeah,
If I'd have told you that, you'd have been like, "What the? Shut up, dude." So anyway, if I told you that Shador and Harold Fannin landed in Cleveland, and that
yeah,
Harold Fannin went ahead of Shador Sanders, you would have looked at me
yeah,
very funny, funnier than you look
Yeah,
at me now.
yeah.
yeah.
But I think Fannin,
We got it, baby.
behind, yeah, we got it behind. Njoku is fine. I mean, he's an early declare young player. He's got time to grow. Hey, I don't think he's a year one superstar, but look, Njoku was not the model of health. I mean, he's getting a little older. I mean, it could be
1 year
sooner
left
rather
on
than
his
later.
contract.
Bingo. This
1
is
year left on his contract, and
Yep.
like why wait for a Colson Loveland when you could wait 2 rounds and wait for a Harold Fannin instead?
And it's
Trav.
yep. It could be like who's going to get more
Fine,
targets
Joe.
in 2026?
I know.
Who's going to get
I
more
didn't mean for
targets in
that to sound
2026?
as like pointed.
Definitely Colston Loveland.
Really?
You fucks.
I don't know, man.
I
Deontay
don't know.
Johnson
I'm
just
just
signed with the
saying it to
Browns. There's
stick
not
to
many
the bit.
targets to go around there
Oh,
either.
I'm so
Deontay Johnson.
I'm just so deep in now that I just have to stick to this gun.
No, the point is actually you don't have to stick to the gun
I
because
know, I
the
know.
best thing that you ever want to teach anybody, especially in this game, is to be Bayesian, to really,
You water.
understand as you get new information, you change, but also to remember that you're betting on range of outcomes at cost. You're not just saying, I am obviously saying that if it was an even bet, of course I would bet Colson Loveland to out target Harold Fannin Jr. next season. Sure, that sounds like it. But if you tell me I get 2 rounds of draft capital, whatever that value difference is, I'll take the value difference plus Harold Fannin for that bet.
That's fine.
That's what I know for a fact.
Do you guys know which tight ends have a chance to be the number 2 target earner on their teams? It's Tyler Warren. It's Mason Taylor. It's probably not Elijah Arroyo, but maybe a year from now. The other one
Yeah.
is Gunnar Helm.
Mm.
He landed on Tennessee. All they got is
Yeah.
Ridley. They drafted a couple receivers. This is our
So
dark
gross.
horse. I'm squeezing it in there. We don't know how athletic he is, but we can get him in the late 4th, early 5th.
We know he's not
doing it.
athletic, actually, Joe.
I don't know that. He sprained his ankle at the combine. I
Yeah.
refuse to believe it. I think he's athletic.
Okay.
He,
Okay.
could just like he sprained his ankle on his hard hat and lunch pail. It was very unfortunate.
He was sitting on his lunch pail to use it as a stool while he was eating his
Yeah,
ham
yeah,
and cheese
and like
sandwich for lunch, and he fell backwards.
yeah, exactly. Sprained it, couldn't run a fast 40, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, if
All
we're
right.
talking about deep tight ends, give me Oronde Gadsden on the Chargers. I was telling you guys in the group chat, I thought I had a funny joke thinking that Stone Smart was still on the team, but he wasn't. But even that, like Tyler Conklin, and who was the other guy that's on the Chargers as a tight end? Not a
Yeah,
great name,
yeah.
not
I know who
good
you're talking about.
athlete pass catchers, you know what I mean? So
Disley.
Billy Diss, that's right, yeah, Billy Diss. Yeah, I would take Oronde Gadsden in Dynasty or both of those guys. Like, I think he's the best receiving tight end on that team already.
Yeah. Agreed, but I think Trey Harris is gonna be target earner number 2.
Yeah, I'm not
So like
saying
that's
to like the tight end or to the top 5 tight end level, but
yeah.
Oronde Gadsden,
I'll
you know,
roll the dice. I
you
will
get
roll
a
the
top
dice.
15 season out of that guy, you're stoked.
I mean, that's another point. While we wait, Jackson seems to be having technical difficulties. We'll wait for
Yes.
him to get back before we have this quarterback conversation. But um, that's, I think, part of the other conversation, which is I'm saying you can get, Harold Fannin late. I think you can get Gunnar Helm late. I think you can get these other wide receivers late. I think this is the deepest fifth round I've ever seen. Like, I'm actually a little reluctant to trade fifth round picks. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in our startup, our Dynasty Underground startup, I selected a bunch of fourth and fifth round picks because I was looking at all the rookies and I was like, I'd rather take, I did the math. I was like, I'd rather take shots on all these dudes than
I did that. Yeah, I didn't. I was like, yeah,
the
it's like a
dusty old
3rd or
dudes that are
4th
on the
rounder.
board. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's going to be a deep fifth round. I think the Gunnar Helms and the Oronde Gastons are going to be there, and I'm happy to take a shot on them there. All right. Jax appears to be back. So now it's time to have the conversation. Chuck or Shador? You would not have believed me if I had said that 72 hours ago. 96 hours ago, you would have been thought I was the dumbest person ever. Chuck or Shador, guys? What do you
I mean,
think?
to me, it's Shador, and it was funny because I was
Yeah.
making my rankings, and right after that top 18 tier, I was like, okay, what do we do here? And yeah, it was like I put Shador, Shuck, and Milrow, and I was like, okay, I think it's one. Which one of these? And I was like, which one of these three? And then it's like, wait, Milrow ceiling, but I'm like, Shuck sucks. It's like he very likely is awful, and like that is so much the most likely outcome is that Tyler Shuck is just not good, and so I don't want that. And that team is dysfunctional. It's what's the odds that he beats out Rattler? Like, I mean, if even if he beats him out, then he goes out and if he sucks, they'll like pull him for Rattler. Like, he doesn't have staying power in that offense. He doesn't have what it takes. He's an old prospect, like very, very scary. I don't want to have to draft Tyler Shug. And so with Shador, at least I can tell myself a story. Like, you know,
Hmm.
look, I played it pre-show for you, the Boomer Esiason take. I said there's no better name for a comment like that than Boomer. But you know, there's a sentiment that is actually kind of disturbing to me. I kind of mentioned it. I'm not going to necessarily go on my tirade right now, but um the Shador Sanders, whatever this is, it was not about football. We know that because we know that Shador Sanders is not an elite prospect. We understand that, but we know he's a better fucking prospect than Tyler
Hmm.
Shug. We know that. Damn it. So it's Shador over Shug, and then it's really Shador versus Milrow, and I think I'm ready to pull the trigger on Shador at some point late second for sure. Like, what are we doing? Like, he's gonna have a shot. He's gonna force his way onto the field at some point somewhere.
You don't
You
even have
gotta
to take
figure.
that shot either. Like, you don't
The
even late
fans
second, it's not happening yet either.
the
Yeah,
fans the fans will force it for them.
it's gonna happen.
The pressure for Shador to get on the field will begin as soon as September and be in full effect by October.
Yep.
Then the teammates will be clamoring for it if Flacco's out there stinking it up and not having the magical season he had 2 years ago in Cleveland. Can I give the pro case for Shuck?
Please, I need to hear
Please.
You can name your team. Aw, shucks.
it.
That's it. That's all I got. That's all I
That's
got.
all you
I
got.
mean,
That's all you
That's
like
got.
all you need.
if you're a Derek Carr and or Spencer Rattler owner, sure, I guess take Shuck.
Dude,
But
that's
like,
so good. You just put AWWW, then his last name with an S.
yeah,
Nailed
yeah,
it.
it ain't gonna be me. It ain't gonna be me.
Ah, shugs. That's so
Sure to
good.
hell ain't gonna be me. See what I did there?
Yes.
Mhm.
Shador.
Sure to
Sure as
hell.
hell.
All right. I don't know, guys. I think I'm
Make a
starting to get
Milrow
delirious.
joke, but it'd be pretty corny. So let's just move on. But yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I think, like, the only case that can be made for Shuck is that his path is he could be starting week 1 this season, but
Yeah.
what's that gonna look like? And I just don't wanna be a part of it because it's gonna be a shit show, and I honestly think that they will probably start Rattler. So, yeah.
I will say I have not moved my tight end, excuse me, my quarterback five. I don't believe in my rankings. I think I've been pretty
Is it,
Steadfast.
Big Dubs in the Steel City? Will
Oh,
Howard?
no, I actually did move him down quite a bit. I shouldn't have. Will Howard has another path, whether it's Aaron
Dude.
Rodgers or Kirk Cousins or what. I think Will Howard's starting games this year,
It
Yeah,
could
and,
happen.
I
like,
think so
he
too.
might be worth a late selection just for the flip when he gets those starts. You might be able to get a second. You might be able to take him for a fifth and flip him for a second, and that's how you should be thinking about the asset because
Yes.
Rodgers or Cousins or whoever the starter is may not make it through the whole season, and this dude's going to start. And some Ohio State fan who believes in Will Howard is going to, buy into the college national champion.
The other
Mhm.
thing too, Joe, is that we saw like the chaos at running back, but that did not happen at the quarterback position other than Shador. It really was pure. These guys ran so pure. I mean, for Jackson Dart, he gets a pure spot. I mean, I know there's whatever Russell Wilson and Jameis, but I mean they've traded back up into the first. It's New York. Like they're gonna give him a shot. Milrow lands behind Sam Darnold, who flamed out last year. What are the odds he doesn't become Sam Darnold again?
Mhm.
Shador, we talked about Shug. I mean, he gets a fucking clear path runway. Dylan Gabriel's got a shot, the same shot as Shador.
Same
Will
shot,
Howard
yeah.
in Pittsburgh. Quinn Ewers behind the oft injured Tua. Riley Leonard lands with what's his face?
Colts, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
hate
Colts.
Riley Leonard.
But I mean, he's sort of a running quarter. I mean, I don't like him either.
He's like a fullback
It fits. No, it
playing
fits.
But
quarterback.
like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like all these guys who I was like ready to just write off, like because
Totally,
it's
yeah.
like Kyle McCord got a pretty bad landing spot. But if Riley
Backup
Leonard
for
like
the
ends up
birds,
getting
yeah.
drafted by like the Chargers or something, you're like, whatever, Riley Leonard. Like,
Peace.
I never will ever draft you ever, but like there's actually a little bit of hope there. Same thing with Quinn Ewers. Like, I don't know, like that's kind of a good spot. Like, so a lot of these
Yeah,
guys got spots where they could be. What did I say before the draft? If they have a shot to be the backup quarterback, I'm interested.
yeah. You don't have to squint that hard on Milrow, Shuck, Sanders, Gabriel,
Howard
Ewers,
Ewers, yeah,
Howard, Leonard. Uh, that's
I
it.
think that's
yep,
probably it,
That's
yeah.
seven. That's
yeah,
seven dudes that are basically Milrow is going to be a second round pick.
yeah.
Shador, Shuck are probably second or third round picks. Shuck, I just saw it go to second. I think in most leagues he's going to go in the third. And the rest of those guys are fourth and fifth round picks. So yes,
By the
feel
way,
free
we
instead
can
of
go
taking those.
we
Yeah,
can go out on the show by you seeing the trade. You guys want to look at the trade I made? Did you see it?
you just made a trade.
Have a look.
I did make a trade in our league. Did you see it?
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
recording
Hold
a
on.
podcast over
Yeah.
here.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
multitasking. What do you think I did when I went off air?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, your tech difficulty. Yeah, I'm sure,
Technical
bud.
difficulties, my
It
ass,
took
pal,
all the bandwidth in your house to make this
to
trade.
pull this one off. Let me know when you see it. You'll hate me.
Oh, I'm actually just entering the draft out of
I traded the
Oh.
3.05.
you son of a bitch.
Thank you.
You
You
son
are
of a
a bastard. Like,
bitch.
I don't, like, get these traits. They don't
Yeah,
happen for me.
Yeah, I mean,
because I'm
you
available
just
for
got
trade.
I was gonna say you just got to be that guy that's always willing to trade, and Jax has made it very clear he's that guy.
Yeah, he is.
And son of a bitch, I don't know. He's just more likable than us. What can I say?
That's not true. That is not true.
What's it like living life so free, Jax?
You want to know the real thought that I
You sound
know?
so liberated.
You know, the thought that actually makes those trades happen is I'm attached to nothing. Like
Hmm.
I'm not like. Of course, I'd like to. I didn't look at who was available at the 305. I didn't look. I was just like 305 for future two. Good, fine. I already know the tiers. I know what's there. It could be Harold Fannin. I love Harold Fannin. I'm not. I'm selling Harold Fannin for next year's second. That's what I'm doing. I'm fine. Good. Go. Your pick. Move on. So it's really that simple. I don't have to think long and hard. Like, well, let me see who's going to be there. No, I don't need to know. It doesn't matter. I already know. Not attached.
But what if the Bears trade DJ Moore and Rome
Enough.
Odunze gets hurt?
Hey, you can squint and see that, can't you? You just
Uh,
did. Yeah, that's fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. The value
People
game
need this
is
advice.
the way to go. It's true. It's true. It's good. And I said early on the show that I get very attached to my players. So this is going to be very good to podcast with you guys. And this is good because
Well,
it
not
makes
only
me
that,
want to try different things, makes me want to throw out trades that I wouldn't necessarily throw out. And so, yeah, it's good.
there's a reason why our pre-draft rankings were so on point. It is because we get together every week and we do this with each other. We challenge each other's takes. And I just want to say thank you to the listeners for being part of that conversation.
Yes.
Iron
Yeah.
sharpens iron. And I think if you've been listening to this show, you know how spot on we were with the running backs and the tight ends, you know, how we've grinded through this wide receiver process, and we're going to keep going. And now the draft has happened. And now it's time to figure the rest out. How are these guys going to fit in with their rosters? So I would just like to leave it on that note. Thank
Mhm.
you. Check out the UN model.
Hmm.
And we got a whole new ball game starting next week. We are in phase 2 of the off season. It's about to get real.
Yeah, exactly. I was
Yes.
going to say one parting thing would be we're probably going to give you some windows in to the UN score model, but those windows are not going to give you the full picture. You really want the whole package. You also when you buy the model, you get historical data going back to what is it 18? So you get every class
2018.
18 through 2025. We have them in order, all of them. It's like 100 and almost 200, whatever, 200 something players, all scored, all in order. It's really slick. It looks badass. It's cool. It's a handy dandy little tool to have. It will help you in the future as well. You can go back and look at players and be like, maybe I shouldn't be so high on Ricky Pearsall. Just saying.
Maybe, maybe. Yeah, only $20 at shop.theundroppables.com. So very reasonable to help you have an edge over your league mates. And of course, if you are coupling the UN score with the Dynasty Underground podcast, that's just W's on W's on W's. So for one, Joe Kuvatakis, for Mr. Jax Falcone, I am Trav. This has been Dynasty Underground. Peace.